beautiful surrounding mountains, lush, expansive wilderness, and many natural wonders, Idaho truly is a state to behold, but even the most majestic of places can hide dark and unfortunate evils. It's hard to imagine that a reality like human trafficking exists here. My name is Alma Jam, and I was born in Cameroon, West Africa, in the region of Amazonia. I was raised in Cameroon for about 10 years, and then we moved to Pocatello, Idaho, and have resided here for about 18 years now. So we moved to the United States to reunite with my father. I remember doing a presentation way back in 2015 on human trafficking. I realized just how much people were unaware about human trafficking, not only globally, but here in their own state. And I left that presentation just feeling a huge burden to talk about this issue, to bring awareness about human trafficking, really modern day slavery in Idaho. To me, this is now a purpose and a passion. Having someone from a different country who recognized an issue from where they were from and now seeing it occurring in where they're currently at and trying to talk about it. And
we are very excited to be working on such an incredible project that will hopefully inspire others to be a little bit more conscientious and aware of some of these unfortunate evils that we have in this wonderful state.
So in Idaho particularly, what I saw was the problem was a lack of awareness about human trafficking. So what the purpose of this documentary is to really inform individuals about what human trafficking is, what the definition about it is, and also provide indicators of what they can do if they ever encounter a situation with a victim or were in a situation that could potentially lead to human trafficking. Human trafficking does exist in Idaho. There's victims in our communities, and what we found out as well is most of trafficking actually happens within the family circle, within the family unit. And for whatever circumstances people go through, they feel the need to traffic their loved ones.
My name is Amber, and I'm from Burley, Idaho. My mom trafficked me when I was 14, just a little bit, and then when I was 16, it was just almost every day. And it was for a long period of time, and she would tell me that if I didn't, sleep with these dudes that she wanted me to, then she'd get me all methed out, and it was horrible. She would force drugs on me, and if I didn't do what she wanted to, she'd inject me or something. And so I was homeless for a long time. I was 14, and my brother was in Job Corps, and I had to pay the bills or find something to do. I would hustle and sell drugs just to get money so I could find a place to live. And then the day before my 15th birthday, I was pulled from school and taken to Twin Falls. They have a safe house there. And it's just for either homeless kids or people with behavior issues. My caseworker contacted me and told me about Inside Out and what they do, and they said that a family wanted to come check me out, and so I was excited to meet them, but I was mostly scared that the reports that people wrote on me would scare them away, and then they'd be like, nah, we don't want her.
2011 saw the establishment of Inside Out Salon by founder Don McLeish. With the help of fellow cosmetologists Stephanie, Taylor, and others, Inside Out Salon built healthy mentorships with high at-risk youth and victims. Their work comes from a collaboration of nationwide trainings from leading organizations and are committed to bringing awareness and understanding to the community and action to those who have been impacted.
My name is Don McLeish. I am a cosmetologist licensed in the state of Idaho. I was a stay-at-home mom for 9 years, and it was laid on my heart that I needed to, when I started my profession, to do something for a purpose. I really felt like it was the Lord laying it on my heart. And so I went back to school to be a cosmetologist. I had heard about sustainable living programs overseas, and how it helps fight human trafficking. It helps girls get their lives back on track. So I did that. I went to school just to become a cosmetologist in my 30s, after being a stay-at-home mom. And my goal was to open a nonprofit hair salon that would, the proceeds would benefit the fight against human trafficking. Hopefully we would be able to train girls who had been, rescued from trafficking. And so I did that. It happened very quickly. Within 8 months, I had partnered with an organization called Destiny Rescue. It's an international organization. They work in Thailand, Cambodia, India. They had a place in Mozambique, and then currently I think the Dominican Republic. And I went overseas and saw what human trafficking looked like firsthand. And then I taught in the cosmetology program there when I went. And when I came back, I knew that was the goal of the salon itself, would be to bring awareness to the fight against human trafficking. And then Destiny Rescue asked me to be their Northwest Regional Manager to share about their work here in the Pacific Northwest. So I did that for a little while, and got the salon going, and it grew so fast.
My name's Stephanie Samancic. We work in the fight against human trafficking here locally in Idaho. During my training and the time that I've spent working locally, I have put it together in my mind that I actually was groomed for trafficking when I was 19 years old. So I met this guy, and he just wined and dined, was so nice, so compassionate and loving towards me, and he got me to finally move in with him. And as soon as I moved in with him, he started controlling me, everything I did, who I spoke to, where I was at, who I was with, and shortly after that, the physical abuse started, and then after the physical abuse, he started sexually abusing me, and I didn't even realize it at the time that was happening. And I have to say that if it wasn't for my parents paying so close attention and listening to their intuition, that I would be dead by now if my parents wouldn't have saved me. We've been able to take in a foster girl who'd been trafficked by her mother, and she is from the Burley Twin Falls area.
Well, I met John and Steph, and like the first day we met, they took me to Sizzler, and I didn't think I was gonna see him again, so I got like the most expensivest thing. It was a salmon, and I was eating. I was like, I'm just make them, buy me lunch. So, like I said, when I first met them, I didn't think they were gonna like me. So when they let me choose my room and like show me kindness, I'm like, oh, maybe there is good still. And they've just showed me unconditional love that I don't think I've seen ever. And they treat me like I'm their own daughter. They don't treat me as a foster kid. They don't, now that I'm aged out, they call me their daughter. But even when I was in foster care, we go to like doctor's appointments. They say my daughter, this and this. And that made me feel like I belonged somewhere. And like, I finally have a family after 17 years. The only thing I can really say in words, because I know words probably couldn't explain how I feel, is like, I just really appreciate them and love them for taking me out of a situation that I was put in. So inside out means like you're beautiful inside out, and it doesn't matter, what you've been through.
Hasn't gotten in any trouble. She's got a full-time job and has learned so much, and it just makes me so proud of her, because so many people who've been through this don't change their lives.
And I chose to be better. I just think everyone should have a chance.
So what I loved about Stephanie's story is, despite her experiences of what she'd been through, Stephanie used her life to help other survivors of human trafficking. And that's what literally anyone in Idaho can do. You can foster victims that are coming out of this situation. You can volunteer. There's a lot that you can do to help victims of human trafficking. I understand with a lot of human trafficking cases, they don't necessarily want to talk to law enforcement. and they don't necessarily want to talk with anyone because they're scared of getting in trouble. And so we have to recognize this as well.
Right. The Cost of Freedom, take one.
My name is Kevin Loosely. I am a sergeant with the Twin Falls Police Department, and I am assigned to our Criminal Investigations Division running our Special Investigations Unit. What we see, at least in our area locally, is part of it is where we're geographically located. We're right along Interstate I-84 and US 93 interchange. And as what we see is people traveling through our area that engage in prostitution. So we'll see people from our surrounding states, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, California. We see them as far away as Atlanta, Georgia. And as what they're doing is traveling through our area, and you can see them sometimes with different ads stopping, in Boise, Twin Falls, move to Idaho Falls, and work their way down Utah and down to Vegas, California. So really is what we're seeing is that traveling prostitution. I think people have this view for human sex trafficking that it is somebody that's chained in a basement. I think it's that picture we have off of TV, right? You see some police show and they're rescuing these women and they're in the basement in the dark with chains, with mattresses lying on the floor. I think we have to get out of that stereotypical mold of the basement. We see primarily females who will advertise services online, and obviously services advertising sex for sale online. Unfortunately, there's a demand. We have people willing to pay for sex, and as long as people are willing to pay for sex, we're going to continue to see people come into our community and offer sex for money. They don't recognize themselves as a victim. They often have been engaged in this lifestyle, and they may think they're doing it willingly, or at the same time, they're doing it out of fear that they might be abused or beaten, or even worse, killed if they don't continue to engage in prostitution. We know that for human trafficking, that juvenile runaways are our most at-risk group to fall into human trafficking.
So the general age for trafficking victims is 12 to 14 when they enter. So we do see girls as young as 11, 12 that we work with, and then sometimes we meet them when they're like 17, but they've been involved for several years.
If you see something that looks out of place, looks abnormal, I would encourage you, please call, please report it, and let somebody look into it a little bit further, because if we can rescue somebody out of this lifestyle, we have a chance of saving their life, recognizing that they truly are victims to this world.
It's very vital that you contact law enforcement to report these cases so we can rescue the victims in this situation.
It scares people when I say this, I think, but even people who are buying sex need help. And so we can't just throw people in jail. We need to look at rehabilitation and support on that end. We need to start looking at society as a whole and saying, how do we do our parts? And I think we're going to have a much better outcome.
What we're seeing in Idaho is the human trafficking laws here are a little bit lenient and somewhat basic. And what we need Idaho citizens to do is call on their senators and their representatives to push the bills that enforce harsher sentences and bigger fines towards human trafficking.
I would tell you that if you ask any legislator in the state of Idaho if they were concerned about trafficking, they'd all say yes. But is there really a lot of rigor around addressing that issue? I would unfortunately say little and none. There are pockets of the state that are calling on their legislators to say we must take action, particularly in the capital city. But with so many competing priorities, I think sometimes that we think in Idaho we're still a little bit archaic. We say things like, it's not that big here, or it's not happening here. And we have to bring the statistics to people's attention to get that level of rigor.
So according to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, since 2007, Idaho has had about 451 calls reported, 85 cases, and about 62 victims.
The number of girls that we've worked with who have been trafficked are higher than the data that is collected, because a lot of girls that we identify are not open to an investigation. They're not open to sharing their story. They just want to talk to someone who will understand where they've been. And a lot of people ask us, what about mandatory reporting? Well, their case may have been reported as something else: sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment, lewd and lascivious act, commercial sexual exploitation. It may have been recorded but never investigated. There's so many things that go into a case that just because a kid identifies doesn't mean anything's going to be happening. And so we all know statistics and research and data, if it's not a hard number, it's almost like it doesn't exist.
Well, the way to get the attention of legislators is to continually outcry, call, write letters, do whatever you have to do. You have to get your voice heard.
Human trafficking is really an umbrella term that, carries all these different categories of what trafficking could look like. Human trafficking in its simplest form is modern day slavery, where we use the trade of humans for the purposes of sex or labor. A victim is always watched 24/7. So they're not really at liberty to maneuver around and find the resources that they need. So you have to ask yourself what you could do discreetly that could help a victim, a potential victim.
Leah Babayan, interview, take one.
My name is Leah Babayan, and I'm a small business owner in Twin Falls, Idaho. I think as small business owners and community business owners, we do have an ability and a responsibility to, provide information, even if it's just like a little business card or a nook in your store or in your business or in the bathrooms of your business, where you provide a phone number or resource for whoever is entering your business. Like this is for a mammogram, and this is for if someone's in here trying out anything, they could definitely see and grab this, and it has the phone number for a safe house if they need to go somewhere, and it's free, it's confidential, lets them know, and they don't even have to talk to us at that point. It doesn't cost us anything. The space is already there, so all we're doing is providing information in that space. So I always refill these, and then if there's another organization that wants to have it here, we try to not overwhelm it, but just subtle, and it's consistent that it's here. We changed locations, and even at my other location, it was always on the mirror inside here. So I don't even have to talk to the person at the counter. I just grab the card and I have it. And that is the first level to empowerment, is information. They need something small, something they can hide in their bra, in their pocket. So I don't want to give them a brochure that their pimp or someone that's in control of them would find and hurt them because of that information. So we try to do it in ways where it's subtle and safe. So it's not just small for the sake of space in here, but it's small for the sake of space that they're probably living out of their backpack and can hide it on their body or hide it in their bra, which is every woman's first pocket. That's just one layer of prevention or access to help that we could do even indirectly. Visibly, I know in our own area there's activity of human trafficking, whether it's people traveling through here to get to another area, or if it's actually, the recruitment is happening here, or the business side of it is happening here. Our perception of it is very distorted, that we think that it doesn't exist, but then the other part of that perception that's distorted is it's assumed that it's all women or it's all girls, but the trafficking is happening with children, with men, with boys, and so it's important for when we have this kind of conversation that we have the conversation, across the board of all genders, all ages.
Businesses in Idaho, really anyone, can provide information and awareness in a discreet way that won't bring too much effort on their part. Other things that businesses could do is just provide training to their employees to be able to recognize the signs of human trafficking. There's an opportunity here where everyone, not only businesses, but us as individuals, can play a part in recognizing the signs of human trafficking and doing something about it. In reality today, a lot of young women feel pressured to look a certain way and be a certain type of person.
Okay, so my name is Sergio Larios. I am a tattoo artist here in Twin Falls, Idaho. And I have clients from all types of backgrounds, all different age groups. I'm having one-on-one intimate conversations with people that I'm working on, clientele that I'm tattooing. I had one client tell me, Serge, I've figured it out. I know what my place in society is, and I was so excited to hear it. And I said, what's that? And she said, I'm just a sex toy for all these men out here. And she wasn't involved in the human trafficking thing. This is just in her day-to-day experience of trying to find someone to connect with through an intimate relationship, and guys treating her like this object. And I said, no, you're worth so much more than that. I try to let them know that they do have options, and there are other people that do care about them in a different way, and not just as a sex toy.
Accept yourself for who you are and be grateful in who you are as a person, so you're not easily led off by what people expect you to be or will promise you of what you could be. So we've heard the saying, history repeats itself, and that's exactly what we're seeing today with knowing slavery as something of history. We see it manifesting today in a different format of human trafficking.
Exploitation of labor is not something that's unique to the African American community or the black community, depending on how you want to phrase it. We have the same thing going on modern day with trafficking. Trafficking of children, trafficking of women, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, or the big hot button issue right now is illegal migration or illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. But let's not forget that there's an industry that profits directly off of their labor. That when humans are given the opportunity, they're more than happy to exploit or subjugate another person if it leads to the betterment of myself. That humans are a bit on the selfish side. I have a bit of a misanthropic perspective on this, but provided my foot's on somebody else's throat and it gives me a boost up, throughout human history you'll see that that's a constant narrative.
Looking back at Sacagawea, a historical figure that was actually embedded within this concept of human trafficking to utilize her skills in order to help the newcomers navigate. Actually quite a phenomenon in the United States, being that you were actually the model for the Sacagawea coins.
Sacagawea is a young Shoshone girl from Salmon, Idaho, and she served as the white flag for the Lewis and Clark expedition from 1804 to 1806. Well, I can actually say that Sacagawea was part of a human trafficking back then. And Sacagawea was taken from her family, from her community, from her band, along with many other young women and children. And it was a form of slavery.
Her story was actually embedded within this context of slavery. What are some indicators or red flags you can use to identify a victim? Some of the red flags you might notice with an individual potentially being trafficked is maybe they're living with an employer. They're living in poor conditions. There's multiple people in a cramped space. They have an inability to speak without an individual monitoring them. Their answers appear to be scripted or rehearsed. Maybe the employer is holding on to their identity documents. They show signs of physical abuse. They appear fearful and submissive. You notice that they're unpaid or just paid very little. And maybe someone that's under the age of 18 and participating in prostitution. So if you're ever in a situation where you think someone could be a potential victim of human trafficking, some of the questions you could ask is, are you threatened? Are you able to leave the place that you work at? Can you go and come as you please? Have you been hurt or threatened by your employer? Do you live with your employer? Where do you eat and where do you sleep? Are you in debt with your employer? Do you have your passport or any identification with you? And if not, who has them? While there is a few organizations that have dedicated their efforts in addressing human trafficking, I definitely think that more can be done. More organizations could, be established in Idaho to address this in different and various communities.
My name's Julie Underwood, and I am here with our Magic Valley A team, which we started to make everyone aware of human trafficking in our area. We're in a small rural area, but there is human trafficking happening in and around us. And we want to make a difference, and we want to end that. So today's walk, it was called a Walk for Freedom. It's sponsored by a nonprofit global organization called A21. And we had approximately 60 people today walk and bring attention by wearing all black and walking in silence and having signs about human trafficking.
So I've been a supporter of A21 for about 8 years. They're one of the first organizations actually with feet on the ground. They rescue and restore and they prosecute traffickers around the globe.
Slavery still exists in the 21st century. People like you and I bought and sold as commodities. People like you and I in this city and in this nation. But you and I are here today. We refuse to just talk about injustice, to simply post about it. Instead, we're here together in strength and numbers. We have the power to change the statistics, and we're changing them right now. This is our walk for freedom, a walk for justice and human dignity, a walk for hope and restoration. From Australia to Ghana, India to Brazil, all over the world, we will abolish slavery with each step. Let's never forget that we don't just say it, we believe it. A world without slavery is possible. While human trafficking is destroying lives, we know that freedom will have the final word. That's why we exist. That's why we're here. For freedom.
These victims don't come across as victims, but they truly are a victim to sex trafficking. If you see something that looks out of place, looks abnormal, I would encourage you, please call, please report it, and let somebody look into it a little bit further, because if we can rescue somebody out of this lifestyle, we have a chance of saving their life, recognizing that they truly are victims to this world.
I really do hope that if you're out there and you're looking for help, I hope that you find it. And if you have gone through it, see what you can do about helping others get through those difficult times in their lives, because we all really just need each other.
And I just really believe that if we come together and talk about it, then I think we can start making some changes happen.
If you or anyone you know has information or a suspicion that a human trafficking situation is occurring, please contact your local police department or any of the following organizations.
But now we can either choose to go down that same path or we can be better, and I chose to be better. I just think everyone should have a chance.